All right, folks, we're back again. We've got Duane of Retire on 500K, modest income. We got Joe here, and this is our fifth collaboration, fifth, number five. We're getting some very positive feedback. Keep giving us comments for future topics, and we'll take them on. So I'm going to leave a link to Duane's website. You need to check him out. He talks about all things retirement for a single guy and on about 500K saved. And he shares everything, great content. Today, the topic that you've asked for is what mistakes did you make along the way? What mistakes were there? So I'm going to open that up to Duane and say, hey, Duane, when I say mistakes, what did you do in
Yeah.
your retirement? And, maybe a little bit of how you recovered from that.
Well, the first thing I did is I should have married Quincy Jones' daughter. We actually went out for 6 months when I was like 38 years old, 40 years old. Yeah, right around there. For 6 months, I had all my friends saying, "Marry her, marry her." It just didn't work out. But now looking back, man, I wouldn't be in moderate income retirement. I'll tell you that much. No, just joking aside. That was a true story, but joking aside, I think I've got two or three of them just ready to shoot out there. I'd say the number one mistake I made though is when I first retired was sitting pretty, in August of 2021, and then all of a sudden the market started tanking. So I'm looking around and I'm on moderate income retirement. I retired on a little over $500,000. So I'm going, how can I bring in some passive income? Well, in this case, it was kind of passive. So I bought an RV. My plan was to rent out that RV on Airbnb. Uh, did I say RV on Airbnb to bring in a little extra income? I didn't want to rent out my house. I felt kind of funny. Although the house that I'm in now, before I bought it, it was a full-time Airbnb. So I thought
Hmm.
about just renting out the RV. So I bought it, parked it on my driveway, and then I started my YouTube channel and I started making more money on that after a month than I'd have to really work at that Airbnb to get as much monthly as I was on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it just sat there, Joe. It sat there for like 2 years. Leaks were springing up. I had mice going into it, from down below. Because as you can tell from behind me, this is kind of out in the country. So that was a big mistake. Now it was only $9,000 to buy it. Okay. And luckily, I was able to get some back when I sold it about a little over a month ago. I think I got like 3,600 bucks because I was honest. I said, I patched up some small leaks. I didn't want to be one of those Airbnb posters that, after the people get what they got, they're like, wait a sec, you didn't tell me about this, this, this. So
Yeah.
anyway, I lost about 6,000 bucks on it. That was a big mistake looking back on it.
Yeah, so many people. I just had this conversation Saturday with a guy was thinking about doing some Airbnb or buying some rental income and that's passive income. Well, I'll tell you, everybody that's in the business says it's not passive income. I mean, there's a
No.
lot of work and time and hey, the water heater's not working, it's leaking, the furnace is making noise. It's all you. So do you
Oh
want
yeah.
it's do you want that in your retirement? And the advantage of YouTube, you make videos whenever you want. It's
Exactly.
extremely flexible.
Exactly. And
You
the
know,
thing that I found out on the RV was like, when I got it, everything was in good condition. I don't know if they maybe did temporary repairs on those leaks on the roof because it was a 2001. But
yeah,
that first winter, man, drip, 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 and then all of a sudden, so
yeah. My first answer to that question, and I've made a video on this, but it was not focusing on my health before I retired. I've
yeah,
always exercised, but nutrition, I was under stress, didn't realize I was under some stress just from, expectations and the job and to perform. But I stress ate, a quick meal here, quick meal there, what's easy, what's convenient. And once I retired, just kind of like had this moment. I remember it. I had this moment when I said, this is great. how long is it going to last?
Ah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
how long is it going to last? And I'm
yeah,
thinking, health span, not lifespan. Yeah, you may live 30 years, but how good is your last 10? And is that related to something I did to myself, like ate
right,
poorly? So trying to
right.
eat one ingredient foods, those kinds of things. So I put it off, and so many people I resonated with this message. They say, "Yeah, after I retire, I'm going to get healthy." I'm saying start now, okay? Because you want
Yes,
a fantastic health span, the years that you can do things. You can go on that walk. You can climb that mountain, swim that lake behind you.
yeah,
Duane.
yeah, yeah.
So that's my second one. What else jumps out to you?
Hey, let me ask you a question on that. When you were talking about stress eating, okay, was your go-to like fast food, or were you trying to eat healthy?
No, I wasn't. It really wasn't fast food. It was just high
Because that's a
carb
weakness
food.
for me.
It's complex carbs, eating casseroles, things like that.
Yeah,
I almost always brought in a lunch into work, but I was always rushing between things. Actually, in my job, I really didn't take a lunch. Lunch was a meeting where I ate.
yeah,
That's
I
just
hear
how
you.
I crammed so much into a day. I didn't take a lunch
Yeah,
hour for 32 years. So it
seriously,
was just like
wow.
I
Okay,
ate during the meeting, and high carbs, sugary foods, things like that. That you look back and you go, man, somebody would provide donuts to a morning meeting. I'd eat a couple donuts. And
yeah.
it's just like, man, I've dug a deep hole, and but hey, go forward.
Hey, yeah, that's yeah. I mean, you're young enough, and you know what? I mean, are you ever really not young enough to like try and reverse some of those bad habits?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think so. I don't think
no,
so. You could be in your late 80s and still, it might not have as much effect as if you like were in your late 50s and you realize your mistake, but you're never too old to do that.
yeah,
So, second big mistake I had, and this again goes back to when I just started retirement. I was sitting on $75,000 cash. To me, that was about. Now, I didn't really know what my retirement expenses were going to be, so I figured that would be like around 2 years of expenses for me. Okay, but once sequence of returns hit for me, and the market started tanking, I panicked. Because I was having to live. I didn't want to take a bunch of stuff. I took out 4.2% out of my retirement assets in 2022. I didn't want to take out any more because I'm a proponent of the 4% rule. So that meant I was taking out my cash. Okay. What I should have been doing from the very beginning is I should have been, even though it was cash, 75,000 in my case, I should have been investing that in not passive, but in conservative investments. Okay. I started doing that in 2023. 2022, I wasn't doing that. So I had that whole year, let's say a year and a half, where that cash was just sitting there. And Joe,
mm,
most of it was like in a brick and mortar bank. I wasn't even taking advantage of online, rates.
right,
So what I did eventually is I started investing in T-bills. What was it? 6-month T-bills for my cash. And then I did I bonds. If I was doing that from the very beginning, I'd be looking a little bit prettier than I am now. But
yeah,
I just got freaked out. Once I saw my portfolio going like this, I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So all my thoughts were on, okay, I got to bring in some passive income, some
yeah,
kind of income. I wasn't thinking about my cash on hand. That could have been working for me as well.
yeah. Excellent
Mistake.
point. But I'm telling you, the years from like 2009 all the way through 2021, what to do with your cash? I mean, if you do great, you're getting like 1%. It was
Right.
real frustrating. I know for me in 2019, like, what do you do with your cash? You don't make a lot. Now it's interesting now. You can make, 4% pretty easily.
Right. But you know
Uh,
what, Joe? Even back then, it's like at least you're making something, right?
yeah,
I mean, instead of just sitting there like a brick doing nothing, my cash could have been working for me a little bit, you know?
yeah, yeah. Hey, my next mistake was, this was an embarrassing one, and
Uh-oh, wait a
it
sec.
very very fixable. is
I'm glad we're recording this.
we are recording. I didn't discuss what retirement was going to be like with my wife.
Oh yeah.
It was all money, all the time. Do we have enough? Do we have enough? Do we have enough? And then I retired, and my wife's expectations were, hey, we're just going to take what we do on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, where we do a lot of things together, and that's going to be 7 days a week. We're just going to go through life like that. And I'm
Right.
like, I had all these things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Do a
Yeah.
little bit of consulting when I originally retired, and I got study groups. I got some, just some things I wanted to do on my own,
Yeah.
and that we had probably a debate. I'll call it a debate. We had a lively discussion for about a week until we kind of settled in. She realized real quick she didn't want to be with me 24/7. I
Yeah.
think that I think that was the big issue. But
Come on,
you know,
man. You're lovable. What's up with that?
but have that discussion with your significant other. What's an average Tuesday look like? Everybody, they'll say, hey, I want to retire and I want to take these 4 trips this year. Okay, you're taking those trips. That's 14 weeks of the year. What are you going to do the other 38? That's
Right.
a lot of time.
Right.
And if your wife and you have difference of opinion, you're going to have a little bit of argument. Maybe, we were lucky enough there wasn't money involved. Like, oh, she wanted to join this golf club that was $25,000 a year. What?
Yeah.
I didn't have that factored in,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
nothing like that. But it was like, how did I miss this? What's an
Right.
average Tuesday?
Right. Well, you know what? Something similar to that. I'm not married, but I've been in a 22, almost 23 year now committed relationship. Um, but my girlfriend and I have always lived apart just by choice, and it's worked out well for us. A lot of people are like, what are you doing, man? 22 years? It's always worked for us. But now when I'm up here, in retirement, I'm here at this place for a couple weeks a month. Then I'll go down to see her in Los Angeles for a couple weeks a month. Now, us never cohabitating before, that's created some issues, because we'd be together like, I don't know, 3, 4 hours at a night. Then she go to her place, I go to my place. Now I'm there for like a week and a half, 2 weeks at a
Yeah,
time. And
yeah.
you're coming, even though you've been in a 22-year-old relationship, you're coming up with some things you never had to deal with before,
Yeah.
you
Who
know?
empties the trash can? What time do you go to bed? Do you have the TV on when you're falling asleep? There's a lot of
Yes.
little conflict points.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing we're going through right now. And honey, if you're watching this, hey, no one's going to see it. Okay. We are, what we do is I'm in one room, like her second bedroom. It's a TV room. She's in the living room. So we usually watch separate programs on TV. So I've got it kind of set how I want it, comfortable and stuff. Now she wants to like totally remodel my whole TV room. And I'm like, wait a sec. So you're taking out this favorite chair that I love because you don't like it, but you're never in the room, even when I'm not here?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, just one thing. So yeah, we're gonna remodel, and it's just like you said, it's back and forth. It's compromise,
Yeah. It's compromise. You may like it. We're creatures of habit, but you may like the change. But you could start talking about these things. That argument and discussion for a week it was highly preventable,
Yes.
and just have that discussion. So yeah, what else? You got anything else on your list of mistakes?
What do I? Hey, I could go on for hours on this. We're just talking about highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. When I first came up here, I didn't move up here till 6 months after I retired. So what would that be? That would be April of 2022. I finally moved up here. And I talk a lot about, you need to get yourself out there in retirement, because especially with me relocating to pretty much a rural area here, I didn't know anyone when I was up here. Socialization wasn't there, you know. I didn't have any friends up here. So what I did eventually, what I should have been doing for the first year that I was up here, and I didn't, I'm not the kind of person who just is going to go out and go, "Hey, how you doing? This is my name. What's yours? Let's go to lunch." That's not me. You know, I should have been doing that. I should have been coming more out of my shell to meet people up here, which I eventually did. I'd say a year into being up here in this place, and I met some great people. Some
Yeah.
great people. I mean, my neighbors, for one, I am lucky enough to have very good neighbors. You don't know when you move into a place, you know, but I should have been pushing myself from the very beginning to get out there and make friends. I've made
Yeah.
some friends up here. I could have made a lot more if I would have started earlier.
I do think it helps being an extrovert. I really do. It would be more challenging to be an introvert. At work, you know, excitement and socialization comes at you. It's at a meeting, you're going to the next meeting, you're having a discussion on this, you could talk about the weekend, but being an expert or an extrovert is makes it easier. I'm the guy, Duane, at the gas station where you're pumping and I'm pumping and we don't know each other. I'm the guy that talks to you.
So you're
That's
so
me.
you so you're definitely an extrovert.
Yeah, I get on the elevator with somebody and I said, "So where you go?"
See, I'm not an extreme introvert, but if you would classify, here's the middle. Okay, here's extrovert, here's introvert.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like here.
yeah,
So for me,
yeah,
it's kind of a challenge to push it more
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
you
I'm
know?
I'm over here.
Yeah, good for you. I
my,
wish I had some more of those
oh,
qualities.
my kids just roll their eyes, because Dad don't talk to anybody.
Good for you. I wish I had a little more of that naturally.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, for me, my next one, and I'm telling you, Duane, we may disagree on this one. This one may be just different styles. Is when I was doing all my prep money wise for retirement, I'm 6 months, a year ahead, and I'm doing all my models, in Excel with my engineering background, and I'm looking at things different ways you know, most of my models were just based on the 4% rule. I didn't really
Ah,
dive into my budget too much. And I just did the 4% rule. And, it all worked out. There's a happy ending. But I didn't look for retirement software. When you look at retirement software, what I currently plan with now, I could have saved with 100 hours of stress, of
right.
of at time at my computer, because the way I spend or and planning on spending, I got my go-go years that I'm planning on spending a little more money, between, I retired when I was 54, between then, in like 74, I'm going to be spending a little more money because, I'm able to, physically able to go, and I like to go on this cruise. I like to go out and hike in the mountains, and then you back off your spending, to maybe a slow go spending and then no go. And then, so the 4% rule really doesn't address that. It just says flat spending adjusted for inflation.
Right.
You also throw in one-time expenses. Oh, I got to buy a car every 8 years. I got to put a new furnace in 9 years. I got to put a new roof on the house in 4 years. All these realities uh, make the 4% rule is just not the way I'm spending money at all. And there was a software package that managed it for me that was so much easier, would remove so much stress, so much time, so much worry um, by not using the 4% rule. The 4% rule is a
Right.
nice rule of thumb, as I state, to see if you're in the ballpark. But it kind of held me back a little bit from understanding what I was going to spend, and I was actually going to spend less using this comprehensive software than I
Right.
thought with the 4% rule.
Well, I am definitely, as you know, I am definitely a proponent of the 4% rule, but I don't follow it, exclusively. Um, I retired in 2021. So 2022, I took out 4.2%. Okay. That was before I started I didn't start my channel until November of 2022. Because I was making income from YouTube in 2023, I didn't take anything out of my retirement, uh, portfolio. 2024, same thing. Didn't take anything. This year, I took out a little over 2% because my cash reserves were getting low. Okay. So if I look back on it, the way I use the 4% rule is if I'm spending under 4%, I'm looking good,
Yeah.
you know? So that's kind of how my interpretation of the 4% rule works.
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't know of anyone, I really don't know of anyone who's like, okay, I spend 4% this year, adjusted by inflation. I'm going to spend 4.1 the next year. I'm going to spend 4.2 the next year. I don't know anyone who
Yeah.
does that. But I
Nobody
do
does that.
think for a rule of thumb, I think it's very good.
Yeah, so to me, it's kind of like just a bumper that you don't want. Hey,
Yes.
if I go over, if I need to go over, I need to watch this the next couple years.
Yes.
So it's just kind of a milepost, or bumper is probably a good term for you.
Yeah, or
But
a guard
it
or a
it's
guardrail.
but going into retirement, I'm just thinking, I'm going to pull out 4% a year. That's what I'm going to do. I'm disciplined. And I'm
Yeah.
like, good gosh. And it's really, when you dive into the reality of how you spend money, nobody spends that way. But people
Right.
just, that's what I'm doing. That's my motto, is the 4% rule. And I think
Right.
that people need to understand that nobody actually does that.
You
And
know,
if you choose to, you can use, do what Duane's doing. That's great. That's a great. Hey, I'm going to use that as my bumper to make sure I'm not bumping up against it.
yeah.
But my solution to that was to use some software, and
Right.
that software has some other benefits to it, but it would have saved me a lot of stress and time, a lot of
Yeah.
time, just
You know,
trying
you
to
know that
find the perfect plan.
that would be interesting. I think that'd be an interesting video. Just get a hold of like, I don't know, 5, 10 people, that follow the 4% rule and say, okay, over the 5 years you've been retired, how much exactly did you take out? You know,
Yeah,
it's going to be, hey,
yeah,
it might be close. It might be 4.2, 4.5, 3.8, but it's not going to be right on the number.
yeah, yeah,
I still think it's a great, like you said, a great guide. So it's like if you see yourself, oh, you know what? My withdrawal rate that last year was 6%. Well, you got to cut back on that.
yeah. You
You
can't keep
know,
doing that. And now, if the stock
yeah.
market went up 20%, and then 20%, then 20%, yeah, you could pull out. You could do six. You could do seven, maybe even eight for it. But you
Well,
can't just do that permanently.
and I'm sure you heard of this, but Bill Bengen, the father of the 4% rule, he said it's up to 4.7% now. That's a
Yeah.
safe withdrawal rate.
And
So
but didn't
hey,
he add diversification in there? I think he didn't have like international in his original
yes,
analysis. And
he
so he's
did.
added some, small caps, some international, more of a diversified portfolio, and said, hey, wait a second, you could pull out a little bit more, but 4.7, that's a lot. That's a
That's a
lot compared
lot.
to four.
Hey, I'm like, Bill, you're the father of the rule, but I'm going to be more conservative than that. I'm just a conservative investor. I'm not going to go out there and say, I'll take 8% out this year because I know next year stocks are going to be huge.
Yeah.
No, no one knows that.
Hey,
It's like timing the market. There's no, you might get lucky once, but try do that twice, you know?
now, this is a slightly different question, and I know you're unprepared for this, but
Uh-oh.
when I was creating my list, I thought of a couple items like, not these haven't been mistakes that already happened, but fast forwarding. I'm thinking of your video on mistakes of people 70, or regrets of people 70, you just put
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Check that out. It's a really good one.
Thanks.
But it's like, okay, what could I look back on today? If I'm 70, looking back on when I'm 61, that's what I am now. What potential mistakes am I performing right now? So do you have any mistakes that could you could realize in the future? I'll start with an example. Why, give you a second
Yeah.
to think, is not spending enough. This was
That,
in
you
your
know what?
list.
Yes, that was number one. Thanks for bringing that up. I posted that video today. That was, you know what, Joe, when I was going through the research for that, that struck me. It's like, I've heard of that before, but to have that the number one on
Yeah.
their list of 70 years old, it like hit home.
It is, and people, may be looking at this like, oh, okay, there, you've got too much money. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, I'm telling you, once you retire and you're used to building up your pile of money, The day you retire, you start digging the moat, and then you start putting up the razor wire.
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
and you're used to seeing that pile grow, and now it's getting smaller. And so you hunker down.
Oh yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. You know, if I knew the stock market was going to return 10% a year, okay, yeah, I would spend more money. I don't know
Yes.
that. It may be down for the next 10.
Right.
So but you know, Bill Bengen, his 4% rule, now 4.7, you can at least spend that. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the 4.7 rule, if we could say that now, may be meaningful to me, is like, hey, Joe, you could spend a little more. And I'm actually doing that a little bit this year. We're putting all new flooring in our house. Um, I've got a trip planned. This isn't 100%, but we're thinking about going to the Panama Canal, a 2-week cruise to the
Oh,
Panama
nice.
Canal, and I may
Nice.
just upgrade the cabin. Get a room with a view with a balcony instead of an interior room that I'm used to getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not spending enough money. What resonates with you as far as a mistake that you may look back on yourself today, if you're 70, look back and say, man, I did this, this was a mistake.
Not getting that hair transplant.
you know
Hey man, you're only, you get up to like your late 70s and stuff. It's like, I don't know. I mean, hey, I don't know how many looks you get now, but back when I was 30 and 40, I was getting a lot of looks. Okay. You get over like early 40s into 50s, 60s, it's like, hey, where'd all those looks go? So if I wait to 70 to get that hair transplant, it's too old to get looks anyway.
yeah.
So you know what? You know what? I'm gonna go on what you said for yours, not spending enough. Because I've realized in my last I give, monthly updates on my portfolio. The last update I did, I retired with, I think it was $545,000. Okay. And I call it a tank portfolio update. And people get pissed at me. It's like the market's doing good. I'm like, no, I'm talking about from when I retired, my portfolio and my cash has tanked. Okay. Just this last update, I am finally up to almost being where I was when I retired. So after everything I've gone through with sequence of returns and all that, looking at where I am now, 4 years out from retirement, having almost the same amount of money as when I retired, I think I can afford to spend a little.
Yeah.
I think I can. And what we're probably going to do is later this year, early next year, is take a trip to Europe. I mean, so I am piggybacking on what your regret might be. It's like, you know, you might be able to spend a little more than you think. But I think that's like, over time in retirement, hey, first 2 years, man, I was like, I didn't want to spend anything. But
Yeah.
as time goes along, you realize it's like, oh, okay, I'm only 6,000 down from when I retired in my
Yeah. and
portfolio as a whole.
and what I would say, Duane, for you, I mean, you retired on a modest nest egg at the probably one of the worst times you could have. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
2008 or 9 would have been worse, but in the last, 10, 12 years, retiring at the beginning of 2022 and having your portfolio survive that and be right back to where you were, that's a good story for people that
Hey,
are contemplating retirement on a modest income. You pulled it off. It works. Just work the system, use the
yep.
4% rule as a bumper for you. And hey, you're living testament that works. I lucked out. I retired at the beginning of 19, and man, I had 19, 20, and 21 were great
Oh,
freaking years, man.
yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so, but sequence of return, that's all freaking luck. That's all luck. There's nothing you could
Yep.
do other than be prepared for it. Be
Yes.
prepared for it. And I know that's hard. It's hard when this was a hard transition for me, is to maximize returns. When I'm 30, maximize returns. When I'm 40, maximize returns. And in
Yeah.
retirement, I'm going to put a little safety in there, and then I got
Yeah.
some growth over here, but we've already won the game. I don't need great returns. I
Yep.
just need to get some below average returns with some safety.
I was just going to say that same phrase. Well, well, okay. I'm only 4 years into it now. we could have the worst market for the next 5 years. So have I really won the game yet? No, but I feel more confident that I'm winning the game, so because of that, and I'm not a risky investor to begin with, but as the years go by, and I don't know if we mentioned this on a podcast before, but my Ravens are really getting chatty here. What's going on? Yeah, we're doing a podcast. As the years go by, I'm 63 now. When I'm 73, I don't think I'll still be in the market. I think I will take it all out to much more conservative investments like T-bills, for example, so I can at least, if not beat inflation every year, at least keep up with inflation. But I think by the time I'm 73, I'll know whether or not I have won the game.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think I'll still be in the market then.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting topic for another day. What's our plans 10 years for investing? Because I'm not there yet, but we don't have enough time. We're right about 31 minutes here, Duane.
Okay.
So any final thoughts before we sign off?
I hope you guys the wind. Now, of course, every time in my videos, it's windy. I hope the sound has been okay with you guys, but now the wind is starting to pick up. So no, let's get off.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to have to find a better background. You win the background battle. I've got my office back here. Hey, this was great. Please, if you've got content ideas, leave them in the comments. Duane and I are reading every one of those, and that's where we're coming up with these ideas. Great. Hopefully you enjoyed this. This is Joe and Duane out. Thank you.